What if everything you thought you knew about history was incomplete? For centuries, powerful voices have been silenced, stories buried beneath layers of misconception. Today, we peel back those layers to reveal the vibrant, enduring legacies of indigenous peoples that have been waiting to be heard. Welcome to Echoes of Forgotten Ancestors. For generations, the history books we've read and the lessons we've been taught have presented a single, dominant narrative. This version of history, often written by conquerors and colonizers, has cast a long shadow, creating what we can call a veil of silence. But what does this veil truly hide? It hides entire civilizations, sophisticated systems of governance, profound spiritual traditions, and deep, intricate connections to the land. The deliberate silencing of indigenous voices wasn't just an accident or a simple oversight. It was a strategic part of colonization. By erasing the history and achievements of indigenous peoples, it became easier to justify their displacement, to dismiss their rights, and to portray their cultures as primitive or vanishing. Think about it. The dominant narrative often begins with the arrival of Europeans, as if the continent was a blank slate, an empty wilderness waiting to be tamed. But this land was home to millions of people, organized into thousands of unique nations, each with its own language, culture, and history, stretching back millennia. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, for instance, had a complex system of democratic governance that some historians believe influenced the very foundations of the United States Constitution. In the Amazon, ancient societies developed sustainable agricultural practices that are still being studied today for their ingenuity. Across the plains, intricate trade networks connected diverse peoples over vast distances. These weren't simple, scattered tribes. They were complex societies with rich cultural legacies. The impact of these historical omissions is not confined to the past. It shapes our present in profound ways. It perpetuates harmful stereotypes and contributes to systemic inequalities that indigenous communities continue to face today. When a group's history is erased, their identity is attacked, and their presence in the modern world is questioned. This erasure affects everything from land rights and legal battles to public health and educational opportunities. It creates a cycle of misunderstanding and marginalization. When we only hear one side of the story, our understanding of justice, of society, and of our shared humanity remains fundamentally incomplete. But here's the powerful truth. These stories were never truly lost. They were preserved. They were carried in oral traditions, passed down from elder to child through generations. They were woven into fabrics, carved into totem poles, and sung in ceremonial songs. They lived in the hearts and minds of the people, waiting for the veil to be lifted. Today, a powerful movement is underway. Indigenous scholars, artists, activists, and community leaders are reclaiming their narratives, challenging the distorted versions of the past, and sharing their truths with the world. This isn't just about correcting the historical record. It's about healing, about restoring dignity, and about forging a more just and equitable future for all of us. Throughout this journey, we will explore some of these reclaimed narratives. We'll hear directly from indigenous voices who are breathing new life into ancient traditions and sharing their perspectives on history, culture, and resilience. We will look at how language revitalization projects are reconnecting young people with their ancestral heritage, how traditional ecological knowledge is offering innovative solutions to modern environmental crises, and how indigenous art and music are thriving, telling powerful stories of survival and celebration. For example, consider the story of the bison. For the Plains nations, the bison was not just an animal. It was the center of their universe. It provided food, shelter, clothing, and tools. The systematic slaughter of the bison in the 19th century was a deliberate act of war, designed to subjugate the Plains peoples by destroying their primary source of life and cultural identity. The dominant narrative often frames this as an unfortunate consequence of westward expansion, but from an indigenous perspective, it was a calculated act of cultural destruction. Today, the return of the bison to indigenous lands is more than just a conservation effort. It's a symbol of cultural resurgence and a powerful act of reclamation. Similarly, let's look at the concept of land ownership. The Western idea of owning land as private property was completely foreign to most indigenous cultures. For them, the land was not a commodity to be bought and sold, but a living relative, a sacred entity to be cared for and respected. The relationship was one of stewardship, not ownership. Understanding this fundamental difference in worldview is crucial to understanding the history of treaties, many of which were misunderstood, manipulated, or outright broken. Re-examining these historical agreements through an indigenous lens reveals a story not of simple transactions, but of complex diplomatic relationships and, too often, profound betrayal. This process of reclaiming history is vital because it rehumanizes people who have been depicted as one-dimensional figures of the past. It shows them as innovators, philosophers, scientists, artists, and leaders. It reminds us that Indigenous history is not a separate, niche subject, but an integral part of our shared human story. It's a story of incredible resilience, adaptation, and an enduring spirit that has survived against all odds. By listening to these voices, we not only gain a more accurate understanding of the past, but we also gain valuable wisdom for navigating the challenges of the present and building a better future. The echoes of forgotten ancestors are all around us, and it's time we finally started to listen. By embracing these narratives, we challenge the very foundation of the colonial mindset. We begin to see the world not through a single lens, but through a multitude of perspectives. This enriches our understanding of what it means to be human. It encourages empathy, critical thinking, and a deeper respect for the diverse cultures that make up our world. The journey to uncover these hidden histories is a responsibility we all share. It requires us to be open, to be willing to unlearn, and to amplify the voices that have been silenced for too long. This isn't about assigning blame. It's about seeking truth and fostering reconciliation. Thank you for joining us on this important exploration. The journey doesn't end here. We encourage you to seek out stories from the Indigenous peoples of the lands you live on, read books by Indigenous authors, support Indigenous artists, and listen with an open heart. If you found this video enlightening, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more content that challenges perspectives and uncovers hidden histories. Let's continue this conversation in the comments below. Thank you for watching.